So this video is for if you do have a cat or multiple cats in the home and you are going to be taking a foster dog. We really want to make sure that the meeting does go well and that they do get along okay. So it is going to be crucial that you follow our recommendations for how to properly introduce them to each other to make sure that it does go successfully and everyone is safe and comfortable. First thing that we suggest is you're going to want to actually secure your cat or cats to a room with all of their essentials: food, water, litter box. Make sure the litter box is away from the food and the water dish, their toys, hiding areas, vertical territory for them to climb, and pretty much everything that they normally interact with, you're going to want to put in a room for them. It might sound a bit strange to isolate your cat, but it's going to be really important to do this because we don't recommend having them see each other right away. Visual stimulation right off the bat can be a bit too overwhelming and a bit too overstimulating. So we want to really make sure that we work more on allowing them to pick up on each other's smells instead of seeing each other right away. So making sure that you do isolate your cats to a room, at least for the first couple days while you work on doing a proper introduction, is going to be crucial for success. So you actually want to do feedings between the dog and the cat or cats behind that closed door of the room that they're in. And starting with the dishes away from that door. If you do have a helper to help you with this, that would be nice for them to kind of be in the room with the cat so they can actually gauge the cat's responses during this introduction period. But if not, then you are going to want to be on the side of the door where your dog is, because obviously you're going to want to really make sure that you are watching the dog and you are gauging the dog's responses before proceeding further. So ideally having those dishes away from the door to make it an even more valuable experience. You can actually give your dog maybe a little bit of wet food in their dish. Your cats can also have a little bit of canned food. So that way it's a really valuable experience for them. And they're not necessarily too focused on what's on the other side of the door. They're more focused on their food. But obviously dogs and cats have a very strong sense of smell. They do know there's another animal behind that door. And that's kind of what we want in the beginning, is we want them to smell them and know there's something there without actually seeing it right away. So you're going to start with those dishes far away, and then each feeding you're actually going to start pushing those dishes a little bit closer to the door if they are having appropriate responses with each other. You're going to really want to make sure that during this process you are working on obedience with your dog as well. If your dog cannot respond to cues like sit or come or look or touch, where they, target your hand, or just other cues to help reshift their focus, then it's going to be really hard to actually apply that kind of stuff when they do see the cat and when they're around the cat. So you really want to strengthen on these cues beforehand. Start applying them actually behind the closed door with your dog on a leash. So, let them walk up and kind of sniff under the door, gauge their response. And if they're acting like they're appropriate, say that nice reward marker, yes, and give them that treat, and really, work on calling them away, asking them to sit, lie down, and just helping them reshift their focus off of that and onto you instead, while still pairing it with a positive experience for them. If you are noticing during these interactions behind the closed door that your dog is acting a bit concerning, so maybe they are sniffing under the door and they are growling, maybe they're getting very still, maybe they are actually stalking slowly near the door, or they're lunging at the door, biting at the door, stuff like that, please don't proceed further. Please obviously walk your dog away and give us a call or email us for further guidance. You're going to want to make sure too that when you're doing these feedings behind the door and when you're working with your dog on leash, working on obedience cues behind the door, that you're also doing some scent swapping as well. So getting them used to each other's smell. Taking a cloth and just wiping it on your cat's cheeks, which are the scent glands, and leaving that with the dog, and then vice versa, wiping something on your dog, leaving it with the cat. This is going to allow them to pick up on each other's smell without seeing each other right away. And you can actually build on positive associations while doing this too. So when your cat is sniffing the cloth that smells like the dog, giving your cat some treats and letting them know, good job. And same thing with your dog as well. You can also do things where, and this is where it is important to coordinate with someone else who can help you, where you actually take your dog out for a walk. Just a very short walk, because obviously they can't go for super long walks, or even just go in the backyard with your dog and make sure the dog can't see through the back door. But having someone open the door and letting your cat actually come out and sniff around the house and pick up on the dog's smell, while giving the cat rewards for sniffing around and smelling another dog and still making it a really good experience for them. And then coordinate with someone so that way you can come back inside and the cat is back in their room safely before the dog comes back in. And do the same thing with the dog. Walk the dog around when they sniff and they obviously start sniffing around where the cat was. Really work on pairing it with good experiences. Work on reinforcing those obedience cues as well, so they're not too fixated on sniffing around and possibly getting a bit stressed or getting a bit too focused. And just making sure that you are really pairing these things with good experiences and really maintaining that good appropriate behavior. So once you're noticing they are eating behind the closed door and the dishes are pretty close to the door, and your dog has even, sniffed under the door, and you're not having concerns with their responses because they seem like they are very soft and comfortable, then you can actually proceed to allowing a little bit of visual access. So again, if you have a baby gate, I would really utilize that. Making sure that you do have a helper for this is going to be really important. So ideally, having your dog on a leash at a distance away from the gate, and then having a helper in the room with the cat. And you can use high value rewards for the dog and the cat during this experience. We highly recommend it to, again, pair them with good associations, but also help maintain that focus on you instead of the other animal. So ideally, if someone is in the room with the cat, they can use small pieces of just plain chicken breast. Nothing too much, just very small amounts, and just work on, when they do spot the dog, giving them some chicken and just making it a really good experience. And the same thing for the dog, using small pieces of just plain chicken breast. Very small amounts. We don't want them to have too many treats, obviously, but very small amounts. And you can even just work on, as soon as the dog spots the cat through the gate, yes, good job. Look, yes, good job. And just help them learn, just look at the cat, but remain calm, and you get a reward for that. While again, really reinforcing those obedience cues to help break that focus and make sure the dog is responding to you when in the presence of the cat. If this is going well, you can allow them to get a bit closer while still making sure that dog is kept under threshold and in a calmer state of mind before they actually walk right up to the gate to sniff them. If the dog is acting a bit too overstimulated, or possibly is acting a bit aggressive, and you're having any serious concerns, it's going to be best that you do walk them away, and you do obviously reach out to us for further guidance. When you see aggressive responses, especially, very important to reach out to us. Do not proceed further. Sometimes you might see a dog that is a bit more overstimulated around the cat, but not necessarily acting aggressive. So you might see pulling on leash, barking on leash. That's why body language is super, super important. So we can read the whole body and try and figure out, is this going to be an issue or not? You can, for some dogs that are a bit just overstimulated, but their body's mostly just loose, but they are just like, oh my God, like, what is that? I need to go see that. Again, you don't really want the dog to approach that way because it's still not appropriate. And when a dog is in that heightened state, it can lead to other inappropriate behaviors and challenges, and that's not something we want around the cat. So you might actually have to have the dog walk away, create a lot of distance, really work on training. And if they're getting a bit calmer and they're able to respond a bit better, and mind you, this could take some time, then they can get closer and actually go and see the cat. You might even have to just, keep your sessions very, very short and end on a positive note, and then try again, maybe later, or waiting the night and trying again the next day, so that dog's stress level can come back down to a normal state before you do try it again. It's just going to be really, really important that you do gauge your dog's responses, and you do only allow them to go up and see the cat through the gate if they are acting appropriate. If you don't have a baby gate during this, it's going to be the exact same technique essentially. You're just going to essentially put something in that door, like a wedge or something that's just going to leave a little gap, nothing too big, but a little gap where the cat can actually kind of come in and put their nose through it. And you can do the same interaction with the dog on a leash at a distance, and get closer to the cat to actually sniff the cat only if they're acting appropriate. Just in case you don't have a baby gate, that's another option as well. Ideally, if possible, when you are working behind a baby gate, or with just that crack in the door, if you have more than one cat, you're going to want to do this with just one cat at a time. If we throw too many cats at the dog right away, it's just going to be sensory overload, and it's just going to be way too much overstimulation, and that is not something that we want. So if possible, that's why having a helper is nice, because maybe they can distract one cat while the other cat's kind of working on that interaction, if that is possible for you to do. If not, you're just going to really have to make sure you gauge your dog's responses to meeting a couple cats behind a gate instead of just one, but we highly recommend just doing one at a time. When it comes to the cats being loose, once you get to a point where you are actually noticing that they're able to have at least 2 positive interactions behind that baby gate or in that crack of that door, then you can actually move up to having the cat loose. But especially if you have more than one cat, this has to be one cat at a time kind of thing. This cannot be 2 cats at once. You might just have to have, one cat in the room while the other cat comes out to do one meeting with just one cat at a time. We do not recommend having 2 cats meet your dog right away when they're loose. We recommend just doing one at a time to prevent further issues. So what you can actually do is you can have your helper have the cat in a room, an open concept area. So maybe your living room, and you can actually just have the helper sit with the cat and give the cat some chicken. And again, your dog would be on a leash at a distance, and you're working on same thing, just pairing the cat with really good things, working on obedience and only allowing them to approach if they are acting appropriate and their body language is soft and you don't have any serious concerns. Again, if you're noticing that the dog is a bit overstimulated or acting a bit too overexcited, then you're gonna have to take it very slow. You might have to walk the dog away, and just really make sure that you are bringing the dog to a state of calmness and helping them work through that and teaching them what to do instead before they can actually go up and see the cat. Making sure too that the cat is also able to have positive interactions, so that way there the cat is actually learning, even when they see the dog or they're starting to walk up to the dog, it's a good experience for them too. So just making sure that when they are interacting with each other, it's a positive experience for both animals involved. And then obviously supervision. Cannot stress enough how important supervision is when the dog is around the cat. Really making sure, again, that you are reinforcing those nice obedience cues, so the dog actually learns how to engage properly and how to interact when around the cat. I would love for a dog to learn how to sit and stay, and really applying that when around the cat and the cat's walking around and the dog is actually sitting in place and staying and focusing on you. That's really, really important to teach a dog, so they are actually learning, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do around the cat, and I actually get really valuable rewards for doing this, and I don't always have to fixate on the cat or, sniff the cat or chase the cat. You really need to actually teach the dog. Dogs don't just know what to do. At the end of the day, they are dogs and they have instincts and they have these responses to things. And it's really important that we obviously teach them how to respond appropriately, and we guide them and we teach them to engage in behaviors that we want to see. So calm, friendly, appropriate behaviors are really important to reinforce in our dogs. So teaching a nice stay and really applying it around the cat. Look is something that I really recommend, teaching a dog to look at you, and that way that can actually help them disengage from the cat and focus on you instead, and bring that arousal level from up here to down here, the more that we can reinforce obedience cues when around them. Same thing that was mentioned with the children. You might want to have periods of time where they're separated from each other, and they're not together 24/7 right off the bat. So that way we're preventing just overstimulation, and we are taking things gradual for them. And we are making sure that when they are out together for short periods of time, it's like the best interaction possible, as opposed to just letting them be together all day throughout the day, and God forbid something happens because we're not managing it appropriately. So having breaks breaks is a really good idea. And then obviously, as they're getting more comfortable with each other, as the days or weeks pass, then they can actually have more time out together. But that way there, you can really gauge their responses when you do have these sessions when they're out together, and then separating them at other times. So that way they're not getting too overstimulated when out with the cat right away. And also really considering your cat's stress level too. Having this new dog in their home, it's hard to just throw a dog into a cat's environment and expect them to just cope with it right off the bat. Cats are very, very sensitive and they don't really like change. So again, really making sure that you are taking it slow and you are just making sure it is very minimal in the beginning before they are out together for longer periods of time is something that is going to be really important to help maintain a healthy relationship between them. Make sure that your cat also has lots of areas to hide in and lots of vertical space. I cannot stress enough how important it is that your cat has vertical space. What I mean by vertical space is obviously tall things to climb. Having vertical territory is very important for cats. They like to perch up high and watch their surroundings underneath them. So it's going to be really important that you give your cat those options. The more the cat and the dog share the exact same level all the time, the more they're going to come across each other. So it's going to be really important that you actually provide that territory for your cat to essentially climb and get away to. So that way they have their own space, and it prevents them from feeling stressed out being around the dog 24/7 if they have their own space to retreat